Hello, welcome to Always Play Blue. My name's Brian, and today we're going to take a look at the first 10 games on my top 50 of all time. I published a list last year. It was text form, it's on my website, alwaysplayblue.com, and I've been doing the unboxing videos throughout the year. I started about June, and I just do that as a filming the unboxing, and then I record the voiceover afterwards. But I'm sort of been building up to be brave enough to be on camera, so here we are. So this year's format for the top 50 is going to be video. So today, like I said, I'm going to go through the first 10 games, 50 down to 41. I've got the games beside me here, so as I'm talking about them, I'm going to go through some of the components on screen. I'm not going to talk too much about the games. I don't want a sort of 10-minute mini review for each game as we go through, because that would take forever, even with just the 10 in this section. So it's just going to be a very brief 1 or 2 minute talk about why I like it, and then moving on to the next. But yeah, so without further ado, so starting the countdown, number 50, we have Yamate. This is a Days of Wonder game designed by Bruno Cathala and Mark Paquin, if I'm saying that right. Last year it was 49 on my list. It dropped one. I like it so much, and we don't play it enough. So that's why it's dropped a little bit. It dropped as far as it can go without me taking it off the list, because I just love this game to pieces. Definitely going to be playing it more. But it's just you're basically using you're getting these tokens and getting boats of different colours. There's 5 different colours, and you're using them to follow a trail out from the side of the board. And you're surrounding these islands. And when you fully surround an island, you're able to do things like building on them or taking the tokens that are on them and stuff. And you can build tories. You can build these little houses, and it's just. We've only played it at 2, and there's a few games on this list that I still haven't played higher than a 2-player count. And I wish I could, and I do plan to. And I feel bad that I'm sort of loving a game so much, and I haven't really played in all of its sort of in all its fullness, if you will. But with what's been happening last year, 2-player count is pretty good to what we were able to do last year. So I love it at 2-player. I love how it looks when you have the board out and all these pieces on it, and just the artwork is just also it's just so colourful. These are sort of the turn actions that sort of change every round. Between the 10, they shuffle around in an order. But it's just one of the best looking games in my collection. It's not OTD production. It's not plastic models and all kinds of things. It's just nice, beautiful looking wooden pieces and great artwork, and that's all it needs. So Yamate, number 50. So next in at number 49, Forbidden Island. This is dropped 32 places since last year. I don't play it as much now. It's one of the few games in the collection that it will never leave, because it's fantastic for teaching new gamers. So I sort of hold on to it for that. Things like this, Pandemic, Ticket to Ride, sort of the gateway games. And I know it comes in a lovely tin box, which I know people hate, but it's just a fantastic co-op game. Really easy to teach. You and a bunch of friends trapped on an island. The island's sinking. You've got the different locations on these tiles. When you draw certain cards, sort of flood cards, they go one level down, and if they go again, they've gone completely. It plays the sort of the Pandemic system really, of at the end of every turn you draw certain cards, and then that changes the board state. So instead of putting viruses out like you do in Pandemic, you're flooding tiles, and if you get a certain card, you sort of shuffle those top ones back to the top of the draw pile again, so you've got more chance of getting those tiles. But yeah, you're sort of racing around an island, collecting these 4 different treasures, which are just really nice little plastic pieces. And it's not an expensive game. It's fantastic to teach people games, to teach them co-op games, and I've had a lot of fun with this. We've had one game where it was proper movie like I couldn't the other 2 people I was playing with that were playing with, they made it to the helicopter, and I grabbed the last treasure, and I was going, and every tile behind me, every turn was just like flipping and flooding behind me, and I could just see it in an action movie, just jumping to the helicopter at the end there. But I mean, this game's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it, and that's number 49. Okay, next up at 48, first new entry on the list is Sheriff of Nottingham. This is the second edition by CMON. It's designed by Sergio Halaban and Andre Zatz, and I think the box is actually quite a bit bigger than the first edition. And this is it's a fun party game. It's a sort of bluffing game where you each take turns of being the sheriff, and the other players have then got to take the cards they've got in the hand and choose how many they're going to put into their cloth bag, and then push those over to the sheriff. And each person says what is in the bag, but is that what is in the bag? The goods you're allowed to take into Nottingham are apples, chicken, bread, and cheese. But there are other cards called contraband. So there's definitely like ale, and there's crossbows you can sneak in, and it's all it's just, if you get the right group of people, it's such a laugh. I've played with quite a few different people, sort of gamers and non-gamers alike, and it's always just fun, just sort of like daring each other, just eyeballing each other and saying, I dare you to look inside my bag. Because if the sheriff looks inside your bag and you're telling the truth, they pay you. Yeah, it's just a really fun party game. Highly recommend this one. And yeah, that's number 48. Next up, number 46, another co-op. This is down 29 places from last year. And this is Pandemic Hot Zone North America. My first Pandemic I played was the Cthulhu one. Then I brought myself the main base game. It's on the shelf over there. And it is really good, but again, limited down to the 2 players. Most of my games I play just with me and my girlfriend. So limited 2 players. I don't really enjoy the big Pandemic at 2. But I find that the Hot Zone games, and we've got Europe as well. I've only played that once so far, and it's quite similar. There's only a few things different about it, but I just find this works better at 2, and I don't think I'd ever play it at 4 because, yeah, you don't get many turns otherwise, and you cycle through the deck really, really quickly. It is a bite-sized version. It's a 15-minute version. We play some games in 10. We haven't chucked in. There's some cards in there you can sort of chuck into the deck to make it harder to play. We haven't done those yet, but I think we will going forward now because we're starting to find it a bit easy. But yeah, Matt Leacock's Z-Man games do all the Pandemic games, but this is just Pandemic's a good intro game, good gateway game for gamers. This is a better version to teach people how to play Pandemic because setting it up, explaining the rules, playing Pandemic, it's about 40-45 minutes. Most of the games we play, and then pack them up again. I thought you can't get that done on a lunch break at work, which is where I was starting to play games before the Pandemic. I was teaching a bunch of work colleagues and sort of forming a gaming group there. This is ideal. I can get this done. We can get 2 games of this done in lunch break. So highly recommend. And I mean, you've got that's it. Everything fits in there. That's a quarter of the board. It's tiny. So you just chuck that in your bag, take that to work. That's my number 46. Number 45, and this is another new entry. This is Fort. Until I ordered this, I'd never played any leader games. In fact, yeah, it is still the only game of theirs I've played. I've got Oath. I haven't got around to it yet because that kind of feels like it needs the right moment. But yeah, this was I'm not sure if this was their first retail game, but it's designed by Grant Roddick, developed by Nick Brackman, with art, you can tell, by Carl Ferrin. Although I've never played any other games, I absolutely love his artwork. But this is a deck building game. Sometimes you get games in your collection and you play it once and you're not enamored by it. And Fort was like that for me. I just didn't get it. I didn't enjoy it. The first 2 or 3 games actually, but then something just clicked because I love deck building games, and I mean this is what you're playing with. This is what you're sort of using each round. Your cards, you have your action, and then you have a shared action that the rest of the group can follow if they pay the cost of the card, because you've got the different icons. You've got skateboard, glue, crown. These are like different factions, and they're all kind of themed as well. They do the skateboard they lean towards certain abilities. But yeah, something just clicked with this game. And again, this is another one I've only played at 2, and I desperately want to play at 4. But yeah, I absolutely love it now because it's deck building, which it's sort of my second favourite mechanic after worker placement. But it's deck building, but it has this little twist to it. And the twist in 4 is that you you play your cards, what you can, and then everything left in your hand that you haven't used, you have to put it out in front of your yard. It's sort of offered to the players, so you have to be really careful about. I want to play this card, but if I do that, I'm going to lose one of my more powerful cards. Not only lose it, but my opponent's going to get it for free. So it can make it quite thinky sometimes about how you play, and sometimes you're kind of torn between doing a nice big move now, but making it a lot easier for your opponent later in the game. So yeah, that's my number 45, and that is Fort. Okay, straight into another new entry, number 44, Mandala Stones by Board and Dice. This is such a beautiful looking abstract game. It's, let me get the board quick. It's all about, you have piles of these tokens on the board, and they've got, you can probably see if I show you these, there's two different designs on them as well. That's critical to the game. But you're basically moving a little, there's 4 different blocks, black blocks called artists, and you're moving them around and then claiming the tiles around the circle you've placed the artist. But there's certain rules to do it. So you can only take the image here that matches. So 2 artists are this one, and 2 artists are this design. So it gets really sort of thinky about how you're going to take off of certain areas, and also sort of place your artist to block, because you can't take a piece if there's another artist sort of on the opposite side of a piece. It gets very, very thinky, and if that wasn't enough, then you get the scoring, which is so clever. It's a real shame. Actually, I'll talk about my gripes in it. I've got 2 gripes for this game. Apart from that, it's just fantastic. Why it's 44 in my list. But these, you place the tiles as you claim them, and then when you choose to, so you can either, your actions are either to take one or to score, but you score in a way where you pick a colour from the 4 colours, and then you score each column that you're able to score in the different ways, and each one, as you can see, I mean this is how many colours are in this one, how many different colours, sorry, plus 1, and then you can see these towers here. I'm going to reverse on the camera. The towers are worth different points depending on what level you've taken that one off, and then the one at the end here is how many different heights you've got across these 5 scoring points. It's very clever. It's, you know, you're trying to, don't pull the trigger too early because you're only going to score 1 or 2, but then if you take too long building it up, yeah, then you know your opponent's getting ahead of you in the score. And I think I beat my girlfriend once on this. She's very good at this. Every time I score, she just scores that little bit more, and she's constantly just ahead of me every time. My 2 gripes, the main board and the scoreboard, really nice cardboard, you know, not too thick but sturdy enough. The you know, I understand it saves on weight, it saves on cost, but your scoreboard each is just a thin piece of card. And my other gripe is the scoring conditions at the end. What I do like about this is you get to pick 2. Each player has 2, and they're different, but you don't pick which one of these you want until the end of the game. So you're not choosing a strategy before you start playing. You can kind of look at what you've got to, and as you're getting close to the end of the game, you can look at them both and then lean which way you want to. You think you're going to score. The only problem I've got with this is, no, 2 problems I've got with this is I find that in every single game we play, we both achieve our goals. So unless we get this, where one's worth 1 point more than the other, they kind of cancel each other out. And my other issue with it is because of it's limited to just a few cards. There aren't that many, and some of them are quite samey. So it's like, you know, if you have more blue stones, but then other ones if you have more purple stones than the other player. So it's the same one, just a different colour. I would have liked to see more variety and a nicer pile to choose from, because we've seen them all several times now. But other than that, the thinkiness of the how to pick the pieces and the way that it scores, love it, and it looks fantastic set up. And you'll start to understand with this list as we go through the top 50. I love how games look. That gets me. That hits me every time, and it will sway me. Gameplay's fantastic, but if you've got those looks, you got me hooked. So that is number 45. Next up, number 44, is Bunny Kingdom by Yellow Games, and we've got designed by Richard Garfield with art by Paul Mafayan. Am I saying that right? I'm not very good with pronunciations, but then I find that most board game content creators aren't either, so that's fine. But this is a 2 to 4 player sort of area control game. Add this to the list of games. I've only played it 2, and I think this makes a big difference with this one because some games it's just the player count, so it's just you don't have as many opponents. This is one of those games where it plays slightly differently. So in a 3 to 4 player game, you take your cards, and you've got different things. You've got treasure cards that just get you points in the game. But the important one which is used to control the board are these ones here. And this is when you play this card, you put a rabbit on this grid reference, and it's 10 by 10 square, and you're sort of vying to control and build fiefs on these grids and sort of get the areas all joined together so your fief is bigger and worth more points in each of the 4 scoring rounds. But as I was saying, the 3 to 4 player game, you take 2 cards, you play them, and then you pass the deck to the next player. I think it goes clockwise round 1 and 3, and anti-clockwise round 2 and 4. So you're not always going the same round and giving the same cards you cast the same player. But with a 2-player game, you have 2 hands of 10 each, one face down that you don't see and one in your hand. And then at the beginning of every turn of that round, you take a card from your blind pile. So for the first hand, you'll have 11 cards, and then you pick one to play, and you pick one card to take out of the game, sort of hate draft, if you will, and just get rid of it. So it's very different, and I am eager to try Bunny Kingdom at 4 player and see what it's like when you get to play 2 cards at the same time and then draft the full set. So cards aren't being lost from the game completely. And the way you score is there are resources on some of the squares. So carrots, obviously it's rabbits, wood, fish, and then there's some sort of elite it's like gems and pearls and stuff. But you are trying to have as many of those different resources in your fief. So if you've got 3 wood, that's just wood. If you've got wood, carrot, and fish, that's 3 resources. And then you build towns around them, and the different towns, there's a 1, 2, and a 3. The towers, and you multiply your resources. So if you had those 3 different resources, and one of the rabbits in your fief sat on top of this town, it's 3 times 2, so that's 6. And obviously, if you can spread your fief out and control 10 squares with 3 resources, and you've got like 6 of these different ones, and you can be like 3 resources times 12 towers, and you score at the end of the 4 rounds. So the first round, you barely score. In fact, the last game we played, the first round, my girlfriend scored 3 and I scored 0. But then you get to that last round and it's like you've got 3 fiefs all spread out, and then obviously you get these sort of bonus cards, the treasure cards and the parchment cards. So this one, Master Fisher here, you get 2 carrots for each fish you produce. If you've got that in your hand, it's a bit like the lesson cards from Isle of Cats. You've got this in your hand, you're sort of keeping an eye out for those spaces that have fish resources in them. So not only expand your fief out and have that resource to score for you, but you get that bonus at the end of the game as well. But yeah, it's a fantastic area control game. My girlfriend got it for me for my birthday last year, and we stuck it on a 10 by 10 for this year. We've just finished our 10th. No, I lied. We've got a few more plays left actually, and I do have the expansion as well, which we've not tried yet. But we're gonna play that as one of the last few games of our 10 by 10. But it's just cute. The only downside to this game, and I'm sorry, Yellow, you know, you brought this game out before you knew who I was, but there is not a set of blue bunnies in this game, and that stops with being higher on my list. Just kidding. But I would love some blue bunnies for this game. But that is Bunny Kingdom, and that's my number 44. Number 43 on my list is Muffin Time. Now, this was a Kickstarter. You can get it at retail now. This is a Kickstarter by Big Potato Games, I believe. And when I first saw it, it kind of looked like it filled the Exploding Kittens vibe of just a crazy card game with silly things on them. I mean, you can see here, this card here, I Am Lonely. All players not in a relationship draw 2 cards. It's based on I think a webcomic, the artwork is. So some of the cards are actually taken from the webcomic itself. Not webcomic. It's like a short animation on YouTube you can find. but some of the cards are specific to episodes of that. So if you know the videos, you'll know the cards a little bit more. But it is kind of like Exploding Kittens. When I first got it, I didn't like it. If I was honest, it was coming in. Yeah, the Kickstarter campaign itself, once after it finished back in, there was delays. I mean, we know now, the early days of the pandemic, there were delays and they were out of people's control, but their communication was a bit, and so I started to get a bit of a bad feeling. It was one of the first games I backed, and I thought this is actually going to be quite naff. And it turned out we played it once or twice, and I wasn't really feeling it. And then we had a game where, okay, to explain this, there's 3 types of card in the game. We're going to backtrack. These are the cards that you can play. This is an action card, and this lets you do something, either to force other players, like I say, to draw 2 cards or something like that. You then have counter cards, and these are like note cards from Exploding Kittens, but on steroids, because note cards, there's just a note card and that's it. There are a lot of different counter cards that you can use to stop actions and screw other players over and screw the person over that's trying to screw you over. And then, this is the best part of the game, in my opinion, and this is, yeah, there's a reason Muffin Time is on my list. There are trap cards, and you can also see actually in the Kickstarter one, there's some, I don't know if you can see, that's sparkly foily, but the trap cards, you can have up to 3 in front of you, face down, and you that doesn't count as an action, so it's like a free action at the beginning of your turn. If you've got a trap card, you lay it down, and then you take your go, which is either playing an action card or picking a card up. But the trap cards, you have to memorise what you've got, because anyone can do anything at any time, and it sets a trap off and it can screw them over. So this is fun actually, because I've used this one. It's do an internet. If you catch another player browsing the internet, steal 3 of their cards. I had this down, and I watched my friend across the table as he ordered food on his phone, and I sprung it. But the game that actually made me fall in love with this, with Muffin Time, was my girlfriend had a few traps in front of her, and it was getting close to her winning. She mostly wins this when we do 1 versus 1, and she mentioned something on the window behind me, and I started to turn, and then my brain went trap, 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 trap. And I refused to look round at what was behind me. It's the typical thing, like, look behind you and then slapping someone on the head or something. So I refused to look behind me, and she it wasn't an actual argument, but it was proper heated, like, because I wasn't trusting her and I refused to be tricked like that, and she was adamant that there was something behind me. For the record, turns out there was, but this game just destroyed all trust we had in our relationship, and to this day we now break up at the start of this game. We get back together when we finish it, because we are not boyfriend and girlfriend when Muffin Time is on the table. But I played 2-player, I played 3, I played 4. It's a good laugh. The aim of the game, which I probably should have mentioned up front, was you have to get up to 10. So you're trying to add cards to your hand. You get up to 10 cards in your hand, and then you call Muffin Time, like you would call Uno when you're down to your last card. You call Muffin Time, and then you have to have those 10 cards, no more, no less, in your hand when it comes back around to you. So obviously when you call Muffin Time, everyone's attention's on you, and we're just trying to find what cards can I play to screw you and trick you out of your hand so that you don't win this round. It's stupid, it's funny. I've got the 2 expansions, so we've got a lot of cards, to the point we still see some sometimes, and we've never seen them before. There's even a card in it that my girlfriend loves to play, where you play it. We played 20 minutes of a game, and she played a card that says, put the cards together, shuffle them, start again. That annoyed some people at the table. But yeah, Muffin Time, it's just a great party game for the Exploding Kitten crowd, I'd say. And that is number 43 on my list. Okay, number 42 on my list is a 2-player classic from Days of Wonder. It's Memoir 44. When me and my girlfriend got together last year, we, due to the situations, we leaned heavily into 2-player only games, and this was one of them. I'd always wanted to play it, and it's basically just, it takes me back to when I was a young lad growing up in the 80s, playing with, your little plastic soldiers and your plastic tanks, and it's a skirmish game. It's a war game, but it's not like a table hogging 4-hour epic with so many intricate rules and firing guns at distance, but there's wind crossing and all stuff like that. It is super simple to play. I actually had this in my Instagram review, in my Blues reviews recently. It was the last game I reviewed. But it's so simple to teach. It is literally, you have action cards. They usually let you play troops in a certain theatre, a certain section of the battlefield, left, centre, or right. There are other special cards, but yeah, that says I can control 3 units on the left flank. So I look at the 3 units I've got out there, and I decide if I want to move them, and if I want to fight. And that's it. You move 1 and you can fight, you move 2 and you can't fight, or you can stay still and fight. And then fighting is just rolling dice, and the dice have symbols on them for the different types of enemies. So you've got infantry, you've got tank, you've got a grenade that can take up both infantry, artillery, and tank. You've got a retreat flag that pushes the bad guys, your enemy, back. It's very simple, but just because it's simple doesn't mean it doesn't have any tactical depth, because it is all about playing those cards on the right side of the board at the right time, trying to take objectives. My big complaint that I said in the review was I feel like there aren't enough objectives for the missions, for the scenarios. There's a few that say, you know, you need to take these towns, but it's all about getting medals. And you can get medals just by wiping out squad. That's the main way of getting medals. So you can go for the scenario goal, but you've still got to kill people, and the enemy can just kill people on your side to get these medals. So a lot of the scenarios, I mean, you read through the book. There's a whole series of scenarios in chronological order. It's about I think it's from June to September of World War II, 1944. So it's from the D-Day landings through to about September time. I think it's just after Operation Market Garden. And there's like text that tells you all about the actual mission and what was happening stuff, and then it kind of and this is a problem sometimes because it kind of gives you at the beginning the Axis forces are on the advantage because you know they had the beachheads, they had the villages behind it, they were stronger, so they have more action cards they can pick from at any turn. They tend to have the better troops on the board, and then as you get through that section where the Allies are pushing forward, and you play as the Americans, the British, the French resistance, but as you get through that, the Axis become weaker and weaker. And there's some matches we were setting up, and it was like you look at the board and think, as the Allies think, if I lose this, I'm a bad player because look at the advantage I've got. But it still becomes a shooting match, and I just wish there was more objectives, and there was more to do than just shooting each other. And I killed 6 of your squads, you only killed 4 of mine, I've won. But it's a fantastic game. It's Days of Wonder again, like Yamate, like Ticket to Ride. It's not super high spec, high end miniatures in that. It's just does what it needs. It looks fantastic set up, and it's quick to play. And it's one of my favourite 2-player games. So that's Memoir 44 at 42. And finally, for this video, number 41, another new entry. It's a Kickstarter that I backed last year. It's Philosophia Floating World. Some games just turn up, and I said earlier that I'm all about the looks. This game is gorgeous, but it has the gameplay to back up as well. So the board is a map of Japan, and you each have a different character. If you play, you can play asymmetric powers as well for like sort of starting powers. But these are the I will get used to turning things opposite on the camera, I swear. But these are the characters you can play as, and you're moving around Japan, and you're trying to fulfill. There's 5 goals. There's building temples. There's building tories, which are just these nice, cute, small wooden versions. There's fighting monsters. There's studying sort of the religion, and then the last one is finding out where your opponent is, because they are secretly hidden in one of the locations in Japan. And the way you win is either the 4 objectives that aren't the hidden objective, or 2 of the objectives and the hidden objective. We've played several times now, just the 2 of us. Again, I only played 2. I'm desperate to teach my friends how to play this. But what makes this game stand out, other than the miniatures, and the temples are miniature as well, and there's some nice tokens, and there's some wooden gears as well, but it's these cards. And these are what you play. So you start off with a deck of 10. Every player's got their own 10, and then there's a market that you're buying from at a cost at the top there. And then each card has 2 so find one. 2 parts to it. So when you play a card at the beginning, when you sort of okay, let me backtrack. So you pick up 6 cards, you hand them to your opponent. They remove 1 completely, and then they hand you back the remaining 5, but split into 3 and a 2, and then you have to pick which of those you want. So do you go for the 3 cards because you have more actions, or obviously they've chosen, so maybe the 2 cards in the other side are stronger actions, so they want you to have those, but you get less to do. So when you pick, so say I pick the 3 cards, first thing I get to do is I get to do everything on this side of the card. So this one here is gain another card. There's sort of gain time tokens instead, and then when you finish that, you then play the right hand side of the card for its action. So this is studying, searching, going to the shop and buying things. So yeah, it's kind of a deck builder. It's got the instead of I cut you choose, it's got you cut I choose. It's a fantastic way of doing it. The guys behind this, Madeline and Joseph, Madeline and Joseph Adams of Cogito Ergo Meeple, they do some fantastic videos on YouTube. Not about, they do some stuff about their stuff, their product. There's a great how to play video. Highly recommend it. The rulebook is okay, but it's very dense, and I found the video a lot easier to go by. But they do some fantastic videos as well about sort of game design and game history. There's a fantastic series on the Monopoly game and its history and how it was sort of invented. And they do things on different mechanics like worker placement. But they've done one on the I Cut You Choose, I believe. So it's interesting to see their take on the mechanic itself. But the cards themselves, they've taken like actual paintings from the era. I will get this right. And they've sort of restored the colour to them and that. And I swear to God, my camera is not doing them justice. They are so beautiful. That each one is literally a work of art. Literally. And every single card. And I'm not even going to get them all out of the box. This isn't even a quarter of the cards in the game. And they went big as well, you know. They went to this big sort of almost tarot size for every single card, apart from the shop cards. They're sort of the smaller ones you would get in sort of the Pandemic Hot Zone games and the sort of Gloomhaven shop cards. But these ones, every single card is that big. It's a brilliant game. I don't think it's in retail. I think you might be able to get it from their website. Apologies if I send you there and you can't. But that's Cogito Ergo Meeple. You can follow them on Instagram. I know I'm bigging this up more than the other games, but I love this game so much. It would be high on my list if I could play it more and play it with more high player count. I really want to try it with the high player counts because there's 2 sides of the board. We play on the smaller side. But yeah, that is a really nice game to end the countdown. So that is my 50 down to 41. We will pick up next week with the next 10 games on my list. I hope you've enjoyed watching this. It's my first time being on camera, so I apologise if I'm suddenly speaking very fast. I do talk fast. I was quite anxious when I started this, but I feel like I've relaxed as we go through. But anyway, thank you for taking the time to watch this. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I have unboxings on the channel as well. But yeah, this is Always Play Blue. This is the first 10 of my top 50, and I will see you next week. Bye.